And now to the anniversary of the Me Too movement, 1 year after the internet hashtag took off. What's changed and where do things stand right now? Well, ABC's Deborah Roberts sat down with men and women of different generations to find out that very answer.
Very serious stuff, Amy. And boy, what a year it has been. Scores of women and men going public with painful stories of sex assault and harassment. And a number of powerful men being called out or forced from their top positions. Many call it a time of reckoning, but it also seems to be a time of uncertainty.
That Me Too hashtag, now a rallying cry for stories about sexual misconduct. But is anything different?
All we've talked about for a year are the relationships between men and women and what are the new rules and how do we come together?
We joined Ann Shoket.
I'm so thrilled that you guys are here.
Author and former 17 magazine editor, for one of her Hot Topic dinners.
Should we cheers?
Yes. Why not?
Cheers.
Cheers.
This time to get real about Me Too. First up, two women from two different generations.
When we talk about the Me Too movement, it very much is like a women finding their power.
Millennial writer and comedian Akilah Hughes.
And that's used to be the attitude too, because people would just turn the other way and just say, oh, listen, that's just the way he is.
And Gen X podcast host and writer Carmen Wong.
Have things changed, do we think, over the last year?
I think people are policing themselves in ways that they never have.
We asked, is there a spectrum of bad behavior?
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. I mean, part of our culture has always been right or wrong, black or white, and there's very little gray in the middle, and I'm a big fan of understanding that nuance because we're all human beings.
But what about male and female colleagues going out for a casual meal?
I think, as a society, we need to grow up. Men and women can be friends, and they also have to work together.
Well, I'm a grown-up, you're a grown-up, and treat me with the respect that you treat your own gender. And then there's no problem.
The men who've been at my table and say, I don't know where I stand anymore. I don't know which way is up. I don't know what the rules are in personal, at work.
I'll tell you, I just hope that we can, if anything we can get from this is, I've always just wanted to be treated as a human being first.
Which leads some to ask if the new rules have taken the fun out of seduction and dating.
I think that you test the waters, and if it's a no, it's a no. You watch a movie and it's like, this man is chasing this woman and eventually she's gonna turn around and kiss him.
Yeah, playing hard to get.
Yeah.
Right.
That idea.
I don't believe that hard to get is actually a thing.
Thank you.
We put the same questions to the men.
People come out of the woodwork because it is the hot topic.
Security expert Jason Hansen, dad of three, had lots to add.
So there may be somebody who says, hey, I don't like my boss because he didn't give me a raise, or he looked at me funny. I'm going to accuse him of sexual harassment. So that's what they're worried about, that they're going to have false claims because it is a fad going on.
In the midst of Me Too, what happens is that the pendulum is just swinging in the other direction.
And law student and also a dad of three, Jermaine Cherry.
This feeling of fear that men are talking about kind of sounds a lot to me like accountability.
Is there a spectrum of sort of bad behavior that we should look at men in a different way?
Well, I think everybody's got to be judged differently, obviously, versus people who are doing horrible things, criminal things, versus some knucklehead thinking he's funny and he's not funny. And so to lump them all together, that would be like lumping in the pickpocket with a rapist.
So do you guys feel like men feel like they're being targeted?
I think there's a small percentage of men who ruin it for everybody.
Unlike the women we met, these guys are divided on the boundaries at work.
So you can't ride in a car to go to lunch with a new employee?
A brand new coworker who I was still kind of feeling out, I probably wouldn't.
I don't think that I cannot go to lunch with the women I go to school with, or that I immediately put myself in danger. Men who are saying, wow, I can't even ride in a car with a woman without feeling like I'll be the target of an accusation. Well, then that's how women have been feeling for 100 years.
Does it feel like you don't know what the rules are?
I feel like men feel like they don't know what the rules are, but it's almost like the rules that you should have been following all along.
Has Me Too changed what it means to be a man?
America needs men to be men, but Me Too, I think, has made them more feminine. The media is telling men, hey, you need to be more feminine. You need to be more sensitive. You should always be sensitive, but I mean going overboard where, again, men can't be quote-unquote men.
But maybe the message is that men should be more considerate, more thoughtful.
Well, I think men should always be thoughtful, but I don't think, again, I can't remember who said the quote, the wussification of America. We don't need to go down that road where a man can't do anything without somebody saying, he opened the door. Look at him. He's so sexist because he opened the door for that woman.
These two men we spoke to are not alone. In fact, we found that polls show that more than half of men and even women feel that Men should be concerned about being treated fairly should they find themselves in the midst of accusations over sexual misconduct. And a growing number of Americans in general say they're worried about the possibility of false accusations. So there's a lot of concern out there about where we're going to shake out with this whole thing.
What a smart, interesting conversation. I want to bring in author of The Big Life, Ann Shoket. Thanks for being with us as well.
The conversation.
Yes, you were there at the dinners, and you host these types of dinners with all sorts of people over hot button issues. And I'm curious, what else were the women that you talked to saying about the Me Too movement and the nuances and the gray areas that are certainly there?
Before we had Me Too as a language, women would come to my table and they would talk about toxic bosses and predator co-workers. But just as often, they would say that they felt outside of the power structure at work. They felt diminished or dismissed because they were a woman, because they were young.
Good old boys club.
Because they were a woman of color, right? They felt outside. And Me Too has really given us a language to talk about those gray areas, to talk about the full spectrum of finding your power.
Yeah, and Deborah, I know that there has been some backlash. We've talked about it with the Kavanaugh hearings and the hashtag #HimToo movement. What were the men saying about that?
Well, what I thought was interesting is the men, of course, were reflecting some concern, but even women. I mean, I've gone to dinner parties lately and people have been whispering in my ear that women, I'm worried about my sons, I'm worried about my husband or my brother. I think the backlash is being experienced by everybody in the sense that people are worried about false accusations.
Right, and where's the line? Where's the boundary between something criminal and something just creepy? And what do we do about both?
Right,
It's very confusing. How much of this is an issue for generations? Like, people look at it differently based on how old you are or what you've experienced.
Generational is at the heart of this issue. There's so much friction between millennials and the generations that came before them. Millennials are leading a change at work, in life, in love. And they don't want to have the status quo, and they keep butting up against these old ideas of the way things used to be.
But the folks with the old ideas also feel like, let's just temper it. Let's think about the golden rule also. Treat people that you want to be treated. I think ultimately that's kind of what it's coming down to.
So much more to say about this. I know, Ann, you will be answering questions on Facebook Live. And to find out more information, you can, of course, go to our website. Thank you both for a very important conversation.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.